Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. Over the past 20 years, Maui has had almost double the number of shark bites of any other island, even though all of the larger islands have thousands of people going into the ocean every day. Now, if we're going to understand the circumstances that bring people and sharks together and result in shark bites, then we need to get some insights into where tiger sharks are moving around Maui, what habitats they're using, and how often they're coming into areas used by people, and how long they're spending there. So we used a combination of satellite and acoustic tracking to monitor the movements of 41 tiger sharks captured around Maui and Oahu for up to 2 years. And here you can see us attaching a satellite tag to a female tiger shark off Kihei, Maui. Now, there's been a lot of public interest in this project, and so we've tried to keep the research as accessible as possible. So, for example, thanks to the Pakaios Voyager site, any member of the public could go online and see where our satellite-tagged sharks travel. And this particular track is for a 12.5-foot female that we captured off Kihei, Maui in October 2013. If we take a broad look at all of our satellite detections, you can see that some individuals traveled hundreds of miles out into open ocean. And in fact, some of these sharks spent most of their time in open ocean, only briefly and occasionally coming into the coastal waters. But the vast majority of detections were within the coastal habitats of the main Hawaiian Islands. And if we take a closer look at this information, at the movements of individual sharks, you can see that most of the satellite detections fell over the insular shelf habitat, which is the area highlighted in red on these 6 different tracks. Now, insular shelf habitat is the gently sloping habitat between the shoreline and the shelf break that occurs at around 600 feet deep. It's important to note that Maui Nui, Maui and her 3 sister islands, have more of this insular shelf habitat than all of the other main Hawaiian islands combined. And this Maui Nui shelf is a highly productive habitat that contains a wide variety of organisms that are natural prey items for tiger sharks. And it may well be that more foraging habitat means more sharks. And indeed, if we plot the number of shark bites in each county against the insular shelf area of each county, you can see that the counties of Oahu, Hawaii, and Kauai cluster closely together. But Maui is an outlier. And this suggests that the greater area of habitat suitable for tiger sharks around Maui may be one of the components underlying the greater number of shark bites that we see over on Maui compared to the other main Hawaiian islands. Now, these are just the basic satellite detections, but we can do a home range analysis of these detections to figure out within each home range of each individual shark where they are spending the most time, visiting most frequently. And we refer to these as the core use areas. And if we run the analysis on these 6 individuals, you'll see those core areas light up as these red hotspots within the overall home range. Now, 19 of the tiger sharks that we had satellite tags on yielded enough satellite detections to run this analysis. And if we take only these core use areas, the red hotspots, from each of those 19 animals, and we plot them on a single chart, it looks like this. So these translucent red polygons are those core use areas, and the yellow points are locations of shark bites. And so you can see that around Maui, there's a cluster of these core use areas that's immediately adjacent to some of the high-use recreational ocean use sites for that island. And a combination of these two factors, the more extensive shelf area around Maui Nui and the concentration of core use areas close to recreation sites, could reasonably explain why Maui, over the last 20 years, has had twice as many shark bites as other main Hawaiian islands. Although we cannot exclude the possibility that there are differences in ocean use patterns between Maui and the other islands that might explain the bites. We simply do not have those kinds of data. Now, this is the big picture, this is the overview. But as a beachgoer, you want to know, well, when it comes to specific locations, how often are tiger sharks visiting a particular beach, especially one where there's been bites previously? And when they do come, how long are they spending there? And to answer these questions, we used acoustic monitoring, where individually uniquely identifiable transmitters are implanted into the sharks, and then we monitor different places on the seafloor with these underwater receivers. And here you can see the location of shark bites around Maui, and these are the locations where we place the acoustic receivers around Maui. You can see that we have them in both deep water and also right inshore at places that are popular ocean recreation sites. And these are the locations around Maui where we tag the tiger sharks. And it turns out that on average, individual sharks visit specific sites very occasionally and stay there for a short period of time. So here we're looking at averages for three main Hawaiian islands plus French frigate shoals. And you can see that the average visit time for an individual shark varies from around 9 minutes up to around 19 minutes. The frequency of visits varies from less than 1 visit per month around the Big Island up to slightly more than 2 visits per month at sites around Maui. Now, these are data for both shallow and deep water locations. And if we just look at the shallow ocean recreation sites around Maui and Oahu, then individual sharks are visiting these sites on average once every 2 weeks and staying in the area for 12 minutes. But of course, this is not the full story, because the overall presence of sharks at ocean recreation sites is the sum of visits by multiple individuals. So in order to get an insight into the overall presence of sharks at particular ocean recreation sites, we calculated the percent of total days monitored that we detected at least one of our tagged tiger sharks. Now, we monitored these sites continually with our receivers for up to 603 days, and we found that tiger sharks were detected on a higher proportion of days at sites around Maui than they were at sites around Oahu. And in fact, sites at southwest Maui, tiger sharks were detected on up to 80% of monitored days. So that equates to a near daily presence of these large tiger sharks at ocean recreation sites. But it's important to remember that even though there is this near daily presence of these large animals, there are thousands of people going in the water every day around Maui, and yet shark bites remain very rare events. We found that tiger sharks visit these ocean recreation sites at all times of the day and night. There's no distinct diel pattern in their visits, and the pattern of shark bites is actually driven by our human behavior, not by the shark behavior. So it's when we are in the water and there are sharks present. And in fact, 70% of the bites around Maui occur between the hours of 9 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. We did, however, detect some seasonal patterns. The lower panel here indicates the number of Maui-tagged sharks detected around Maui during each calendar month across the duration of the study. The middle, no sharks that were tagged around Maui were subsequently detected around Oahu. The middle panel shows the number of Oahu-tagged sharks that were detected around Maui during each of the calendar months across the duration of the study. And the top panel shows the number of Oahu-tagged sharks detected around Oahu during each of the calendar months. And these arrows indicate peak pupping season and peak mating season. Now, there was no significant seasonal signal in detections of Maui sharks, of Maui-tagged sharks around the island of Maui, but there was significant seasonality in the detections of Oahu-tagged sharks. And simply stated, Oahu-tagged sharks visit Maui most frequently during the core winter months, during peak mating season. And this shows that in addition to the extensive Maui Nui shelf being able to support some fairly resident tiger sharks, it's also attractive to tiger sharks from other areas of Hawaii. And we know from previous studies that these animals are coming from as far away as the northwestern Hawaiian Islands to locations such as Maui. And we believe that this is linked to the tiger shark's reproductive cycle. To try and determine whether reproductive activities such as mating were occurring in these shelf habitats, we used small shark-mounted cameras. Here you can see a camera package attached to the pectoral fin of a large male tiger shark that was captured during January, which is peak mating season for tiger sharks in Hawaii. The camera woke up on day 3 of the deployment, filmed all day, then detached from the shark and floated up to the surface of the ocean where we recovered it so that we could download the footage. Here's some footage from the camera. You can see that initially the tiger shark is swimming fairly steadily just above the reef, and in a second you're going to see it accelerate. It spotted something of interest, and you can hear its body moving more rapidly, and the bottom gets sort of blurry, and then at the end of this burst swimming event you're going to see it going into a series of tight turns, circling around and around. And suddenly, another tiger shark comes into view, and the male gets up on top of this tiger shark. It's a brief flirtation. You're going to see it in slow motion. There's no claspers by the pelvic fin, so we know this is a female tiger shark, a relatively of mature size. You can see mating scars on the dorsal ridge. So this has all the hallmarks of a tiger shark mating event. So you can see how this camera technology allows us to get a shark's eye view of what they're actually doing in these shelf habitats. So can we explain the apparent spike in shark bites that occurred around Maui 2012, 13 and 14? Well, we tagged tiger sharks around Maui in 2013, and we know that the very same individuals were present throughout this period into 2015 when there was only one bite. And we saw no real differences in their behavior during that time. They were doing the same things, visiting the same ocean recreation sites. We also have no reason to believe that there were any major changes in our human activities in the water around Maui during this period. So although this looks dramatic from a human perspective, from a strictly mathematical perspective, these are fundamentally low numbers, and chance variation is the best explanation for the presence of that spike. Will shark culling reduce or eliminate shark bites? And the answer is no. Historical shark killing efforts removed hundreds of tiger sharks from Hawaii waters. And the largest of those programs was the 67 to 69 shark culling program, during which over 280 tiger sharks were removed. During the entire 1960s, there were only 3 shark bites documented in Hawaii, and 2 of those occurred right towards the end of this shark culling program and soon after it finished. So clearly, removing sharks, even hundreds of them, does not eliminate shark bites. So in summary, the island of Maui is surrounded by a lot of very good tiger shark habitat, more than the other main Hawaiian islands. We also see that the core use areas of the tiger sharks around Maui are right next to some of these heavily used beaches. And the shelf habitat around Maui, the more extensive area, may mean that there's more tiger sharks around Maui than there are, say, around Oahu or Kauai. And there's a near daily presence of these tiger sharks at some of these Maui ocean recreation sites. These factors combined could explain the long-term higher number of bites around Maui relative to other major Hawaiian islands. But it's important to remember that the visits by individual sharks are infrequent and brief, and that there are thousands of people in the water, and despite this near daily presence of these animals just passing through, the number of bites remains very low. The risk of being bitten by a shark around Maui remains low. There's no easy solution to these shark bites. If we want to go into this ocean wilderness, then we have to accept a certain level of risk. There are some modifications to our own human behavior that can perhaps lower our risk of being bitten by a shark, or at least improve the probability of a favorable outcome. And these are simple things like, when we go into the water, go with groups of other people. Don't go swimming a long way offshore by yourself, because if you are one of the few unfortunate people to encounter a shark that bites you, when you're by yourself, there's nobody else there to help you. If you're with a group, they can help you, and hopefully you'll recover. We do have some future goals that have grown out of this study. This was a 2-year study, but female tiger sharks are on a 3-year reproductive cycle, so there may be important longer-term patterns that we can't capture with a 2-year study. And the transmitters that we implanted into sharks around Maui during this current study will still be transmitting in 2024. So we're hoping to continue to monitor their movements to look for those longer-term patterns that may be important to understanding why sharks are biting people. We're also planning to do additional tagging along the Hawaiian chain to get a sense of the overall scale of migrations from distant parts of Hawaii to locations like Maui. We're also planning on doing more shark camera work, because you can see how insightful some of this video footage can be into the shark's natural behavior. And we're going to be doing some field ultrasound work in the near future so that we can better understand the reproductive status of the female tiger sharks, and also look inside their stomachs from the outside to answer questions like, are Hawaii tiger sharks now eating a lot of turtles? And finally, I'd like to point out that a study like this takes a tremendous amount of effort by a big team of people. And we were lucky to have collaborative support from a variety of funding sources, DLNR, PAC-IOS, and several others. And so I'd just like to acknowledge their support for our research. Thank you for your attention.